If I could, I think that that's a lot of pretty good information, at least for me to go off on a couple questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love it. Cool.
If it wasn't true, would you want to know that?
Sorry, I was taking a drink. Absolutely.
Okay.
I honestly, like, I want to find a way to get evidence. I just kind of don't really know the route to take. I can't afford clinical trials or anything like that. So I was trying to think of a way to give evidence, and I know that's not your guys' job. It's my claim. I have to give evidence.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I guess don't worry about the evidence thing. I think I want to know more so on where your side is like.
Perfect.
The question I'd want to ask you to follow up would be more of like, are feelings one of the best way for you to know if something is true?
Yes, and I actually do have hypotheses as to why. Are you familiar with the concept of an empath?
Yes, I am. So you are confirming, just real quick, I just want to make sure I got you right. You are confirming that you would say that is like the best way for you to determine something to be true.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Did you want to go on to that, or did you?
No, you can continue. We can touch on it later if we need to.
No, if it's important to you, feel free to mention it.
I think that, so I consider myself a very, very, very empathic person. However, one thing that I do have that not most people have is an extremely sensitive sense of smell. Like blow your mind sensitive. And I think that honestly, I've just learned how to pick up like pheromones that people give off with my sense of smell, because my olfactory sense is more conditioned than, say, someone who hasn't worked on it. I did a lot of exercises when I was in high school. I used to have a fear of going blind. So I did exercises to learn echolocation and to increase my other senses just in case that happened. I wanted to still be able to do martial arts. So. Sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can understand that fear. I've actually had that fear. I guess my problem, the only thing that I want to touch on is that if you're valuing it based off of feeling or say, would intuition be a good way for me to sum it up?
Do you mean like in general, do I listen to my gut feelings?
Yes.
I actually pretty much exclusively listen to that, because every time I don't, I get fucked or something in a bad way.
Sure. You would agree, though, that your gut feeling would say that an animal had like a gut feeling that there was something in the bush that wasn't there, and it kind of ran away. That's probably, there's a benefit there, right? But it wouldn't be indicative of like the truth, correct?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is confirmed, but just in case, personally, I always listen to that feeling, as a just in case type thing.
Sure. So if you're applying that methodology, though, and it could give you the wrong answer like that, wouldn't you want to reevaluate maybe a methodology that would give you perhaps a better, more reliable sense of verification?
Absolutely.
What do you think what that methodology could be, or do you think that methodology already exists?
I think the methodology for, I'm trying to think of like what it could be that would be like, yes, this is true, or no, you're just making this up, it's placebo and confirmation.
Do you think that science makes like truth claims?
I think that if something is a fact, it is for sure true until it's proven otherwise. I mean, facts kind of are facts. I don't think you can have a false fact, otherwise it's not technically a fact.
Could you have the best understanding based on the purported evidence?
Yeah, and just a disclaimer, I'm not trying to say like anything I say is like the truth or anything. I'm just telling you.
100%. Yeah.
Not to play word games, but what is a gut feeling?
Well, I would say intuition in this sense, or what you would think is true. What would you? But this is going off of somebody who views feelings or gut feeling as the right way. Like, what would you describe it as? It's just like the initial thought that comes to your mind.
No.
Okay.
My gut feeling is a tightness in my navel, kind of right around the area of my diaphragm, and it gets really tight, and then I get this overwhelming feeling of dread, like I feel like maybe a boulder is about to fall on me. So
the point that I'm trying to draw is that I don't see a distinction between this and faith. I don't see any distinction between someone just saying my gut feeling says that it's true, and going based off that methodology of faith, or going off the methodology of your gut feeling. Because the problem with it is that we have like intuition has an allure about it, especially in like a biological sense. But we know based off of people's gut decisions that generally it gets them to the wrong conclusion. Our gut feeling was that, lightning bolts were sent from the sky from a god, and we had a lot of gut feelings, and most of the gut feelings we've ever had are actually wrong. I feel like we're missing a part of like the correction process, all the dead people that came before us. You know what I mean? So what would you say to me, kind of comparing it to faith?
So, and I mean this in all seriousness, but I actually truly believe that people that say they have experienced divine intervention or anything like God put this feeling in my stomach to do this, I really do believe that was just them not realizing that was their own self doing it. Because like humans
they're ascribing it to the supernatural when it was in fact natural.
Because like the way I came to that conclusion is humans are animals, we're mammals, and I think we kind of forget that a lot. But cats, dogs, birds, deer, when before natural disaster strikes, they have a really good habit of getting the fuck out of Dodge. And being as like we're pretty similar to most mammals just by being mammals, I have never been one to believe that I don't also have that ability. And I've never once thought it was God or anything like that. I always just like.
Well, I mean, I guess my thing is that, and maybe we could come back to the faith thing, because the point I guess I'm trying to draw there is more so about that it could lead you to so many different conclusions that it wouldn't be reliable, because it can demonstrate opposite, if not contradictory, conclusions on that. But the main thing I have a problem with, like the gut feeling, is that would you agree that we're like pattern seeking, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe intuition. I operate based on my instincts, I guess. If my instincts tell me I should move, I think about it and say, okay, is this my instinct or am I overreacting? Why is my body telling me this? Should I listen to it or not? And then I move forward. Yeah. I don't. It's a little different if I'm like, just use martial arts, for example. If I feel that feeling in a fight, I listen to it every time, and most of the time I avoid whatever strike was coming my way.
Well, how could you tell the difference between something that where you've kind of already applied some kind of methodology where you actually are using your senses and empirical data to make a decision based on outcomes you're aware of, as opposed to your intuitions? Like, how do you draw the distinction between you just using your instincts or intuition, or actually having some kind of like acquired knowledge
I have like an internal criteria that I follow, and talking to you, it's starting to make more sense that it is a methodology that I've learned rather than following my gut feeling innately. Because I don't, if my gut feeling says jump, I don't say how high. I go, why? Okay, that's a good idea, or no, that's a bad idea. And my immediate answer to your question was years of making the wrong decisions, and then that made me realize that it is a methodology, that I'm analyzing it and reacting based on what is presented to me rather than just knowing,
Yeah, and I think the distinction for me is like that you're saying with instinct. I would want to point out, like maybe see if you agree with me, that there's kind of something that's, I would agree, hardwired kind of in our evolution, that is useful in situations where it could be life or death or something that matter. I bring up the
split-second decisions.
Yeah, and I bring up the bush example because it is beneficial for that animal or the caveman or whatever to run from what they could think could be, some beast that would kill them. They'd benefit from it. You would agree that this claim's a little bit higher at least if it ties to any supernatural thing, it's probably a little bit higher of a claim than, say, using your instinct for the example I gave, right?
Yeah.
It's like a worldview changing one, as opposed to the other one's different in the sense of that it's like, it's either you live or you die. It's kind of not like a worldview shaped one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I also have a really hard time attributing it to the supernatural myself.
Okay.
Just because, like I was saying earlier with my sense of smell, I spent years honing that ability. I've been meditating. I'm not going to say every day because that would be a straight up lie, but I've been meditating like we'll average it out to 4 times a week just to be safe.
Cool. Yeah, I meditate too, by the way, and it's awesome. It's a really good thing.
And I pick a certain aspect of myself to improve on each time I meditate, and I've been doing that every single day, or not every day, but you know what I mean. 4 times a week or so since I was 12.
Yeah.
So I've spent a lot of time on my sense of smell. I've spent a lot of time on my. Honestly, like it could just be my reflexes. Like I increased my reflexes to the point where I have time to process what's happening before I react to it, So
you would say that this is probably something for you that wouldn't probably be a methodology that would be as reliable for somebody else. You're saying more so you've kind of honed this to a degree.
I don't
making it more probabilistic for the right kind of answer.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, because if you were to try the exact same process that I did, I highly doubt that it would really work for you, because it's tailored to me, the way I think, the way I perceive reality, the way I see the world and everything.
Okay.
And that's why I don't necessarily think like it's supernatural. I think supernatural is really almost too vague.
Well, let's stick with the methodology, because you hit something that's important to me, because now that you're kind of saying that it works for you, and we started this with the feelings being reliable. This is kind of the point I wanted to draw, was that you said the feelings was the most reliable. If it's working for you and it's not for everybody, but we have the methodology I applied, like methodological naturalism, which is provided so much within science and things like that. Wouldn't that be the more reliable methodology?
Absolutely. It seems like that methodology would be infinitely easier to back up, because you'd have data to back it up, rather than just I can do it.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm not trying to I don't want to discredit anything and say that you don't have a methodology or that it's not valid or anything like that. I'm just trying to draw the distinction between what would be the most reliable, especially for the sake of that we're social species and that we kind of depend on each other in our minds, since we all can't really do it ourselves.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ask your questions.